So I'm here with Mr. Simard, who was Commodore in 1990 and 1991. Welcome, Mr. Simard. So tell us a little bit about why you joined the club and when you joined the club.
I joined the club because I decided, against everything I believed before, to buy a boat. And at that time, my insurance broker, who was the brother of my first boss, told me that I had to come to the Royal St. Lawrence Yacht Club, which was the pearl of RStLYC. I didn't mention in French that I actually, before I bought my boat, people were saying, you got to go to Lake Champlain if you got a boat. So I actually traveled around Lake of Two Mountains, around Lake St. Louis, and around Lake Champlain, and I visited, I think, most of the yacht clubs. And I was impressed by the proximity of the club. I was impressed by the kind of boats. There were plenty of sailboats, and that was my kind. And thanks to Paul Dansereau, I met a few people, and in a flash, I was a member of the club. And in a flash, I became the secretary of the club. Mm-hmm. And in a flash, I became the Commodore of the club.
That seems to be how it works, actually. Yeah.
Because I was a lawyer, you know, they always want a secretary that's got some law practice. And at one point, just a little bit on that subject, there used to be, there still is, a membership committee in this club. And one of the first things that I noticed when I was secretary of the executive committee, this big important table with all these important people around, I remember there was the head of the membership committee came in once in a while and said, I have a list of members that have been approved. Here they are. And the minutes showed that the head of the membership committee had nominated 3, 4, 5 members. So for the next session, I looked up the bylaws, and I came back and I said, Mr. Commodore, this is something that I want to point out. There's only one body in this club that runs this club and that approves or disapproves of anything. And I noticed that the chairman of the membership committee proposes and elects members of the club. May I remind you, by law number so-and-so, that the chairman of the membership committee can only propose a list, and he has to tell the club which ones he recommends and which ones, if there are, that he does not recommend and why. And it is to this executive committee to take the decision on that matter. And then, of course, the chairman said, no, that's not the way it's been done. So the executive committee under, I think it was Graham, who was it? He says, no, the bylaw is the bylaw. We're going to do like the honorary secretary says from now on. So the head of the membership committee never spoke to me again after.
But these days, it's always voted on at the executive committee. All the new members are subject to a vote at the executive committee. So you're responsible for that. Okay.
I'm responsible for that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. I gather you're a sailor.
Yes, an avid sailor. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Were you a sailor your whole life?
Well, I'm not going to repeat the whole long story, but I was born with a terrible fear of water, to the point, and that all changed the day my crazy neighbor invited me on his Laser 22. We hit the bottom about 5 times. We ended up at the beach in Oka, where he just plowed his boat right in through the sandbank, and we spent the day there with the children after having, as I said, hit the bottom 4 or 5 times. And we spent with the kids, and with his kid, he had 2 children, and I had 2 children, a boy and a girl. He had 2 boys. And we came back from there. His boat was actually moored at Laval-sur-le-Lac, so there's a channel to go in there where we hit again a few times on the way in, but anyway. And I was reassured very much by Carl, because he said, when we hit the bottom, don't forget you're in 5 feet of water. So that's no problem. So that sort of solved my problem with water. I decided to buy a boat, a CS-22, which I almost sunk when I put it in the water for the first time, because I had forgotten there was a little plug that was supposed to plug the hole. But anyway, I managed to get the boat in the water, get it rigged with my brother, who was a bit more savant than I am with mechanical things. And after that, it was with the famous 3-foot-itis. We went to a 27-foot, and then we went to a 33 feet. All CS yachts that I was very happy with. And then I decided to learn how to sail a little bit. My first experience on a shark was not very happy for the owner, because I just untied the rudder. And the second, it went better afterwards. And then we sailed on Wednesday nights, and we sailed on Friday nights, and we sailed on Saturday, and there was the Sunday races. We did the famous Strathcona, which took us from the club to Beauharnois and back for a whole day sail. And then we had the, my goodness, I didn't mention that. We had the annual cruise. We went to Lake Saint-François at the head of the canal there, the Soulanges Canal. And then we went to places like that as a group of sailors and motorboats, actually. We were in the Soulanges Canal some years. We were, I don't want to exaggerate, but we were at least 25, 30 boats, all moored together. We were actually blocking the canal completely. We were going hopping from one, but the bigger boats were next to the dock, to the wharf, next to the wall, because the wall was about 15 feet high, so we needed these boats to get up there from our little sailboats and going up there. But we had an incredible barbecue. The club came with the truck, with the big barbecue, and we had a barbecue on the locks right there. And we had my friend, he died prematurely, actually. He was playing the accordion, and I had a voice in those days. Today it's going. But we had this sing-song every night around the fireplace with, what was his name? He built a big house. He was the husband of Francine Périgaud, who also died prematurely. But anyway, he was there with his accordion, and it was a ball. Those were years where we were a community with an incredible spirit. These were happy years. Everybody sailed together, everybody motored together, everybody, and I told you about of course, the treasure hunt that we had for years, and where it was allowed, it was actually recommended to cheat, to buy your way off when you didn't answer the questions, because all the loot was shared amongst all the children when we came back here. And even the treasure. When Mrs. McKee hid the treasure, of course, Mrs. McKee, she was the boss. She hid the treasure with $100 and $1 bills in them. And the one person, the crew, who found the treasure didn't keep the treasure. It was shared amongst them. They had, of course, 25% of the treasure, $25, but the rest, the $75, were split amongst all the participants. That was always, my idea has always been that there has to be something for everybody. That was the spirit that we were keeping, that we were feeding. As I said before, that we had these incredible summer lawn parties with actually running out of food. There was so much attendance. Yes, we sailed.
And the whole lawn was covered with people, you were saying?
The whole lawn was full of people, and we had to add chairs. And actually, the year of, was it the year after or the year of the centennial? No, it's a year after. We had an international race we had the international junior racing at the club. And, there were 150 boats of all kinds, lasers on the lake and everything. And after the race, there was a big dinner where the dining room, if it was raining outside, it was inside. If it was not raining, it was outside. I had an appointment somewhere, and I didn't reserve. I came in late, and I said to Mrs. McKee, is there a chance that I can join the table? She said, no, sir. We're sold out. There's no more food. The Commodore had to, that was you can check the date, it was 1990 or 89 or 90. I had to go back. I was the Commodore. I could not have dinner at the club. There were too many people. It was Junior World Championship at this club.
So as Commodore, what was the biggest challenge you faced?
Well, the biggest challenge we faced was to try and live within our means and not to have an assessment at the end of the year. But besides that, it was trying to keep, there was no special challenge from the outside. It was trying to live without debts, without the banks, within our means, and avoid an assessment at the end of the year, because this was a capital sin. The assessment was considered a capital sin. The members don't like to be assessed $100, $200, $500 at the end of the year. So we had to live within our means, and we did it. We succeeded, I think, quite well. What we didn't have in terms of richness of money, we had it in richness of community. It was unbelievable.
It certainly sounds like there was a lot of really good times had between the sandbar and Dowkers and the trips down the river. You took some trips on your boat to Tadoussac.
Oh, well, that was special for, first of all, in 1984, that was before I became Commodore, there was the celebrations. The 1984 celebration was, what was it, the 1984? And there was a big yacht parade that came, the Tall Yachts Parade came to Montreal. And the tall yachts were, and there was a regatta at the same time, there was the Transat, where the people left from Montreal. So the club organized a sale, what do you call that, a gathering in Quebec City. So at least 30, if not more than that, boats, sail and motor, and we were anchored all together in a bay off l'Île d'Orléans. There's a bay in front there, a little bit exposed, but the spirit was such that the guys that had the motorboats that came with us came and picked up everybody that wanted to go to Quebec City at night, took us to Quebec City on their motorboats, and brought us back to the bay at night after visiting Quebec City, after dinner and everything. I tell you, this was a spirit. It was incredible. So we went on their boats at night, 10, 15, 20 motorboats, leaving the anchorage at l'Île d'Orléans, and taking us to Le Vieux-Port in Quebec City. Then we all went into Quebec City, had dinner, and gathered back 11 o'clock, midnight, back to the bay, and they delivered us to our boats. Wow. Wow is right. Yes. And then after that, yes, it was following that. Well, I actually developed a very big friendship with one Dick Hamilton, because he was the Commodore before me. I think he was part of the committee that nominated me to become Commodore. And Dick Hamilton and I, Ken Morrison, and a few more, actually my birthday is on the 6th of September. And for something like 15 or 20 years, I was never home on my birthday. It's a Labor Day weekend. We were on foam, going down to Tadoussac, sailing down to Tadoussac to go and watch the whales. You should see the whales at 4, 5, and 6 o'clock in the morning. And with Dick, it was swinging down the way, full speed, either sail or motor. And it was 24 hours a day, and the St. Lawrence Seaway being honked at by the channel boats or whatever, the seaway boats by the what they call Canada steamship line, and it's difficult to sail at night in the St. Lawrence Seaway because it's universal truth. Lights are either green or red or white. And when you go down the seaway, the buoys are either green or they're either red. And the traffic lights in Trois-Rivières, the traffic lights in all the way down Verchères, they're all red and green. So we follow from one buoy to the other, but sometimes we try to stay off the channel because these boats coming behind you, they're coming in at something like, they have speed limits, but I think they're at least at 10 or 15 knots. And you don't want to be hit by them. And you don't want to be too close to them because the way the Venturi principle can suck you into the side, to the side of the boat. You want to avoid that. But it was fantastic. We did 600 nautical miles in 7 days or 700 nautical miles in 6 days. I don't remember what. We left on Wednesday night because we had to calculate with the tide in Grondines. And 1 year, we have to have the tide with you. And 1 year we had full wind from the west, the tide going down. We went under the Quebec Bridge at 14 knots on the bottom. It was unbelievable. And 1 year we missed the tide coming back to Quebec City off the side of the L'Île d'Orléans. There was a little red house on the shore. We were heeled 15 degrees, full sail, and that bloody house was there for the next 3 hours at the same place until the tide changed. But we did that. We went to see the whales. And you know what? In the morning, you know where the whales are near Rossignol. The Bay of Tadoussac is a very big place. And we go to Petite Bergeronne and en face of Rivière-du-Loup and Rimouski and those places. And we come in. It's 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock, depending on our time. We always arrive at about the same time because if we leave. And you look across the water and then you see, you see the blow of the whales, and we just let the boat cruise towards the whales. And 1 year, I'm a music fan. I'm a pianist, played the piano for 25 years, and I decided to put on the radio Vivaldi's Four Seasons. Oh, wow. Very loud on the boat radio, but guess what? There were belugas dancing next to the boat. They came up, white belugas. Mm-hmm. I said, that's it, they're dancing to Vivaldi's music. That was our show. Mm-hmm. And 1 year, I like photography as well. I decided to go flat on my stomach in front of the boat, right under the protection, and I had there with my camera. I said, the goddamn, she went down over there, she'll come up here, because they go down for a few minutes. You don't know where they're going to come up, because they go down to 300 feet, I'm told, or something like that. And one came up from the left, right in front of the boat, and blew right in my face. They have bad breath, by the way. But and then from there, we always went up to Baie Trinité with Dick's boat. Baie Trinité up the Saguenay River. And we were young and strong at heart those days, and we raced to the top of Mont Trinité to the statue of the Virgin Mary. It was a race every year. We went it. I wouldn't do it today. No. But we did that for at least 14, 15 years.
That sounds like a lovely, lovely excursions.
Oh, they were beautiful. And every year we had an extra member. It was Dick, me, and Ken, and we had a guest every year. And 1 year we had a guest. I will not name him because, oh, no. When was it? Another year. We were 3 or 4 boats going down to Tadoussac. And when you go on the north shore of l'Île d'Orléans, When you come at the end of Ile d'Orléans, you come into the big St. Lawrence Seaway. There's plenty of water. And one of our guests, with whom I sailed for many, many years, and he was a good sailor, but he was an engineer. Engineers have this thing that they like to calculate, and they like numbers. So he insisted on taking the number of every goddamn buoy that we went by. It would be 88, be 99. So we're coming in off l'Ile d'Orléans, and there are two currents that meet there. It's very strong current. And we were wing on wing. We had a west wind, and we had the two sails stretched in front. And there we go, and we were off on the other side, and the channel buoy was to our port. And he says, we have to go into the channel. We have to go into the channel. We have to take the number of that buoy. Wing on wing, you don't have much maneuver to make a left turn or to make a right turn. I said, no. There's 300 feet of water here. Stay here because we won't make it. He took the boat and went. When we were approaching the buoy, he just did this with the boat, and we hit the buoy and spun around 360 degrees and kept going. Not a line came out. So poor Foam. Foam had a bulkhead moved. We hit the buoy sideways. We hit a sea buoy sideways. We spun around. So that, one of the adventures. After hitting the bottom in Rock Bay many times. Actually, Dick was a bit of a special sailor. You know, there are two kinds of sailors in life. There's old sailors and there's bold sailors. But there are no old, bold sailors. Dick is old, and he's always been a bold sailor. And on his map, where the places, the bottoms that he had hit, on his map, there were sometimes 5 or 6 X's on the map. He kept track of the places where he hit bottom. And the one we hit the most, the hardest was, believe it or not, it was called La Baie des Rochers, right off west of Tadoussac, where the bottle of wine went into the salad that I had been working on for half an hour. And we were waiting for dinner. Everything was in shambles, but we got out of there all right. It was.
I once had my brother hoist the sails while I was downstairs trying to get all the food put away.
Yeah.
He didn't tell me he was going to hoist it, and a whole fruit salad slid right off the table and flipped upside down on the floor of his sailboat. It was a little messy.
I just finished reading a book by that funny writer. He calls the galley on a boat a scupper, a scooper, where you scoop food more than anything else.
So I've got one more question for you.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite thing about the club?
My favorite thing about the club has always been the community spirit. I don't know if it's today. I've stopped coming to the club because I had to stop playing tennis. Even I was down, but after sold my boat 6-7 years ago. I stopped coming at the club. I played tennis. I stole my boat more than that, more years than that, because I played tennis for about 5 or 6 years. The community spirit of this club. I raised my family at this club, my 2 children, and the other people that I knew had children, and we lived a community life together. The club was our home, as simple as that, and we lived it. And after I sold my boat, I went into tennis, because I had played tennis before, but then I said I have the time. And I actually changed the rules of tennis. You know me, I have to change something. So the tennis here, before I became chairman of tennis, they named me chairman. Big mistake. I noticed that when you wanted to play tennis, you had to put your name on the board here. And there were people playing tennis. They were basically the same 5 or 6 people. And at the end of the year, they had a tennis trophy. So the best tennis players who didn't play tennis at the club came here, and played with a bunch of newfies that didn't play too much good tennis. They beat them, and they had their name on the trophy. I said, that's not club spirit. So I changed the rules with, who was, oh, Scott Price was with me. Yes, it was Scott Price and me. We were together. I said, Scott, I'm the chairman, you're going to be the co-chairman. So we made new rules on the tennis court that, A, you, on counting on nights or days with the women single, men single, men and women doubles, you could win points. The maximum points you can win is 6, because otherwise, if you go into tie something, you can go up to 14. So if you win, you have 6 points, and if you lose, well, you get 6-2, 6-3, so whatever. And at the end of the year, we're going to tabulate the scores of all. The book is still there. Tabulate the scores, and we're going to have a championship among the people that have played tennis together all summer. So we started that, and we had attendance at the tennis at one point, 20 people, 18 people that was playing tennis, and we were scoring. And at the end of the year, we had the tennis competition with the people that played together. And you had to have a minimum of 5 sets to be part of the, because you could have an incredible score of 6 if you play only one game. And then your average is going to be 6 for all of us. But anyway, we made averages, and the people that played together competed together. And we had some lunches, and we had some prizes, and we had things. So that's another thing that I tried to keep. Yeah, but the community of this club there was a community of both, as I said before, sailors and motorboats. We had these cruises at the Cascade with 30, 35 boats, and we had these cruises going down for the Quebec 94. There was such an incredible, and of course I told you in French, I don't know if you want them to repeat in English, but we had a few little adventures on the lake where 6 boats tied together came down across Lake St. Louis at night to go and sleep at Doukers, but we were living together. And that was, it was exalting, it was exciting, it was enthusiastic about it. Everything was beautiful here. It was the beautiful life of the club.
Thank you very much for sharing your experiences with us today.
You're welcome.
Yes, and for your time.